Okay, we must be getting the time on my clock here.
6:59, sir.
All right, yeah. Okay. Okay, Manny, you there?
Yes, I am, Samir.
Good, good. Yeah. Okay. Gravity, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank
Good.
you. I got your email, so I'll
Good,
make sure to
thank
pick
you.
that up.
Good, thank you.
Didn't have time to respond.
Yeah. Okay, I have 7 o'clock and I think we're ready to go. We're all polished and in our places, which is good. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of council for February 2, 2021. And we acknowledge that we are fortunate to be able to gather on the unceded territory of the Squamish Nation. And call the meeting to order, the time being 7 o'clock. And before we start the meeting, I'd like the CIO to introduce our new corporate officer. And Rebecca, are you up?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. CIO, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, please.
I'm talking away with my mic off. I'm sorry about that. My mouse is very rapid. So welcome, Rebecca. I want to certainly just take a couple minutes just to introduce Rebecca Anderson and welcome her as our new corporate officer for a period of about 14 months. That's the time that Lindsay will miss tremendously for the next little while. We'll be taking a break and focus on her family. And we wish her and Paul all the best the next little while. And as far as Miss Anderson, Rebecca, we're very, very fortunate to welcome here. She's a former CIO of the town of Lytton, I should say, and a licensed lawyer, and has held her own practice as well, and continues to be a member of the Law Society. We're very fortunate to have Rebecca joining our team, and looking forward to working with her. So, thank you.
Excellent. Welcome, Rebecca, and I really look forward to all the legal fees we're going to save.
I'll do my best.
That's right. Good. Well, thank you. Sit back and relax and enjoy the meeting this evening.
Thank you.
You're not quite appointed corporate officer yet, so you
Not
can.
quite there yet.
Okay, Council, we have an agenda before us. Are there any additions to the agenda before I proceed? Okay, and seeing none, I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Kroll, thank you. Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. All in favor of approval? Thank you, that's approved. The first item of business is the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 2021, and the recommendation they be adopted, please. Councillor Kroll, thank you. Councillor Lumley, thank you. All in favor of adoption? Thank you very much. And the second set of minutes will be from January 25, 2021, and a recommendation that they be adopted, please. This is a special meeting of council. Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. And Councillor Kroll, seconded, thank you. And Councillor D'Andrade, you're signaling your intention to speak.
Thank you. There's a meeting here that I did not participate. I believe it was on the 19th.
Okay.
I just want to correct that sorry, you went too fast. Sorry, it was the one that the fire chief provided a report.
It's that was the committee meetings, and those are part of these minutes. Those will be coming up in the next meeting.
Oh,
the committee, that was a committee meeting.
I saw here. Okay, well.
You were there for the council meeting in the evening, but you missed the committee meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, under committee reports, the meeting for the 19th, if you are listed, Councillor D'Andrade, my apologies, and we'll remove your name.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay, going to the, did we get a mover and seconder on the 25th? Okay, and all in favor of adoption of the minutes of the 25th? Thank you. They're adopted. Thank you. Any business arising from either of those sets of minutes, council? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to item number 5, which is delegations and petitions. And this evening we have Gwen Wilcox, the treasurer for the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society. Gwen, are you with us?
Yes. Oh, this muting and unmuting business. Yes, I am. And I think Mike Alsop is here somewhere.
Yeah.
He's going to report with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Mike in, please.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Is he coming?
Hello?
Yeah,
There he is.
You can hear him. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Gwen,
Okay.
you go ahead then.
Do you want to go ahead? Okay. Well, I'm assuming that everybody has read the report that we submitted, so I'm not going to reread it, but I'll just kind of go over some of the high points. The Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society came to the town when they were first trying to get kind of organized and get going. They were quite new as an organization, and it took place mostly through 2019. During 2019, the town of Gibsons decided to support the society kind of on an ongoing basis, not with one lump sum, but with some various bits of grants. So first off, the town of Gibsons in 2019 provided to the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society $30,000 at the end of 2019, with a promise in 2020 for an additional $50,000. Now there were reports and things contingent upon this second $50,000 coming. The purpose of that $30,000 and the coming $50,000 was not for the specific projects there, but in fact to support the society and bring some structure and some capacity to the society for ongoing projects. So anyhow, in 2019, we got our first $30,000, and we started looking at that time for an executive director. So we got a job description, and we got, did some recruiting and stuff, and we kind of had a look at some pretty good candidates. And then by then we were into early 2020, and COVID hit. So the main candidate for the position of executive director lived off coast. So over time, he said he was still interested. He was kind of hanging around, and in the end, it took quite a few months for him to decide. But in the meantime, we made this report to the town of Gibsons about the $30,000 unspent. That was, I think, in June or July of 2020. So the town then awarded us the balance of that promised $80,000, and we got another $50,000. Now our plan was to use a big chunk of that for an executive director's salary. So our candidate was quite eager to join us, and then suddenly he became a little less enthusiastic and decided, in fact, not to join us. So by the fall of 2020, we still had all the money from the town of Gibsons, but we had no executive director. So in fact, we hadn't moved too far in that direction as far as we had hoped. And we were quite focused on the Franklin Road project and keeping that going. So we were kind of busy with that. Anyway, at the end of December 31st, 2020, we still had all that money. However, we have now hired not an executive director, but an administrator for the society. The executive director's position we had originally thought would be quite substantially a project manager for the projects that we were going to take on. And in fact, we were almost finished our first little project, and we've gotten it going without an executive director. And we're we're still working on the second larger project, trying to get that approved for some funding. But in fact, we have hired this executive director for a big chunk of the 80,000. And by the time we have that person busy for the second year, we will have met, I hope, the town's expectation for their grant, because we're trying to establish ourselves as a permanent, ongoing society, so that we can, continue to provide affordable housing at every opportunity for the town of Gibsons and all up the Sunshine Coast. And so, one thing in my report, it said that I was going to attach copies of the job description and the contract for the administrator. Those did not end up going. So if you would like those, I can certainly send them to you later. But I thought if they didn't catch up properly, then they would be all mucked up. So if you'd like copies of those, I'd be happy to submit them. And that's really the report, unless you have questions. It's pretty straightforward, really.
No, I just invite Mike. Mike, do you have anything to add? Do you want to add this time?
Yes, just a couple of comments, Mayor Beamish. One is that having this supporting staff, it enables to do a number of things that we've been struggling to do, because we've been a very hardworking board who, quite frankly, have been a little overwhelmed by the minutiae that we have to deal with on occasion. Not from the town of Gibsons, I might add. So it has freed us up to do a lot of things, not the least of which is acting upon some of the strategic plans that we had laid out. Secondly, with the delays in the funding through no fault of our own on the Shaw Road project, I don't know if you guys, if the council received the information that the reason that we got turned down by BC Housing for the Shaw Road funding was because they admitted that they made a mistake in vetting the original or the submission. We were told that it was not shovel ready, and in talking to through New Commons Development, they admitted that in fact it was an error, but by the time that error was caught, it was too late to move on. So we are in the process of dealing with both another application to CMHC and another application with BC Housing, and we're reasonably confident that, well, we're not going to give up until it's built. It's that simple. The other thing that we keep running into, because we're in contact with other organizations and groups on the coast, is that we know that part of our mandate is to promote affordable housing to the greatest extent possible. This gives us some latitude, an ability to take that community outreach on that we just have not had time to do. And I think I'm obviously speaking to the converted when I'm speaking to the Gibsons Council, because of all the work you guys did with the housing affordability study and the way in which you've embraced it. So we've got a lot of work to do. Having the support staff in place is going to be a tremendous help. And because it does not cost as much on an annual basis, we've got someone in place for 2 years for sure. So I want to thank council on behalf of the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society, and just let you know how much we appreciate your patience and your generosity.
Thank you, Mike and Gwen, and be assured that you're talking to a group of folks here who's worked with small, medium, and large organizations. So we understand the challenges. We understand the challenges of working as volunteers as well, sort of thing, so that you still continue to have our confidence and support. And we look forward to this project going ahead as in a timely way, but it will happen. And I congratulate you on having somebody on board now who will look after your day-to-day operations and activities. Council, Gwen has offered a copy of the job description and the contract. Does anybody from council wish to see that? Does anybody feel that we need to have a copy of that on our records? is available, obviously, if we
Yes.
wish it in the future. Appreciate that. And
Sure.
and did you apply for the federal quick restart grants? Did that come up in terms of funding?
The Rapid Housing Initiative
Rapid
funds.
Housing. That's right.
Yeah, I know every project has a really interesting name. Yes, in fact, we do have an application in for that. That's our application to CMHC that's currently, we're
good.
waiting for a decision. Yeah,
I know that our MP had mentioned that to me, that he was aware that that was there, sort of thing. So that's good. So
yeah,
There-
yeah, that's it.
good to keep him in the loop on that
There-
one. He's very actively working for our communities here on the Sunshine Coast. So, Council, I'll turn it over to you. Do you have any questions for either Gwen or Mike? Council Ladwig first.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I just applaud Gwen and Mike and everybody on the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society. They do work really, really hard. And it is a complex initiative to try to pull off, particularly for volunteers. It's very complex, just dealing with all the different levels of governments and grants and everything that all the red tape they're jumping through. So keep it up, guys.
Thank you.
Councilor Lumley.
Yeah, obviously, thanks for all your efforts. And one of my questions might be if you're starting to create a little bit of like infrastructure, like administrating infrastructure in the society, like how do you think that you're going to go forward with like is it all going to be like funding, like by raising funds driven to support that, or do you foresee yourself coming to different governments on the coast and asking for much like maybe Scredo does, that we ask for a little bit of money every year to support administering your society, or do you have any long range kind of like ideas for that?
Well, I'll make a quick comment and then I'll ask Mike to take it. Well, as far as the funding for that position, once the Shaw Road project is complete, we will need a full-time on-site property manager. So we're kind of thinking to or I am anyway, and that's kind of the way I'm going ahead, although this is in the future, roll that into the budget for the project. So that's kind of how ongoing it would be funded without coming to the various levels of government. Now we had significant plans for fundraising locally for 2020, and that could have been successful enough to cover, I would think, quite a major portion of this year's salary. However, COVID, say no more. So we were kind of hooped on that one. So we were really particularly appreciative of having those grants available from the town. And we had Sunshine Coast Community Foundation and a couple of other smaller ones, but the ones that allowed us to continue was to get us going was from the grants from the town of Gibsons. So we're hoping to move out of government funding, except for the mortgages, of course. And then Mike will be able to answer it more fully.
Mike, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, a little bit. Once we get, well, I'm not going to cover the ground that Gwen did. I essentially agree with her. The funding for the staff positions just varies from government, be it federal or provincial, program to program. But there is generally some funding for that support staff available, which, as Gwen has said, is involved in the cost of running the facility. I think that there may be occasion where we would come to the town of Gibsons, the District of Sechelt, or perhaps the SCRD for additional funding. But my vision of it is it would be initiative driven rather than a sustaining grant from any one of the governments on the coast. I don't know, Gwen, do you agree with me or not?
I do, Mike. I do, Mike. I'm thinking of funding particularly through the Shaw project, but of course, future projects will bring future unnameable needs. So, but for the foreseeable future, I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Gwen and Mike, are you working on or are you yet a charitable society?
We're looking into that.
Okay.
Our lawyer is looking into that for us. A number of us attended the BC Nonprofit Housing Association workshops that were held about a month ago. And it became quite obvious that there are a number of affordable housing societies out there who have both society status and charitable status. And so we're investigating whether or not that's feasible. We have been told in the past that there are disadvantages to it in terms of the reporting process required by Canada Revenue. So we have not yet made that determination, but I'm hopeful that we will have a concrete answer. And I'd love to readdress this with the council when we have made that decision, because it dramatically affects something that's going to be an ongoing need for us, and that's fundraising.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you both for your presentation tonight and for keeping us up to date. We look forward to this. We'd like to see shovels in the ground, and so that we look forward to that. And I know that in terms of housing, our community is needful, and with many people looking for this project to be being done. So continue.
Franklin's almost done.
We'll continue to work with you. So thank you.
We would also like to see all of you at the grand opening, however it may be, at Franklin Road, even though it's just 3 units.
Yeah.
Your efforts has been very important in regards to that. It will probably be very modest. It may even be a Zoom opening.
Yeah.
But thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay and watch the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move now to item 6 on the agenda, which is inquiries. And this is for inquiries for items that are on the council agenda for consideration this evening. Well, corporate officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you're attending the meeting as an attendee tonight, if you use the raise the hand feature found at the bottom of the screen, we can turn on your audio and video so you can ask a question of council. And I do already have 2, Mr. Mayor, so I'll move them over in order.
Not seeing anybody yet.
Okay, here we are. I think that's good. Am I on?
I don't see you. I don't see a name up, but if you introduce yourself, you can speak to us without a picture. That's fine.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you fine. Yes.
But you just can't see me. Okay, that's fine. You don't need to see me.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, I will. Mayor and Council, my name is Judy Bonkoff and I live at 628 Glen Road. And I've got some questions about affordable housing. I'm disappointed that we haven't gone farther. I've sort of been following the affordable housing for years. In fact, I had a meeting with the original people in the basement of the United Church when it was United Church. It's a long time. And I would like to see or ask you, has the town got other plans to get affordable housing going more quickly than this? That's one question.
Okay.
Do you want to answer it, or just want me to ask the few ones? My question.
May as well give us your questions and we'll
Okay.
see which one
Okay.
you can answer.
Okay, so my next question, of course, is that Franklin Road is almost done, and I'm happy about that, but I'm awfully concerned about how much it costs to build, and wondering, I know this sounds sort of counterproductive, but I'm wondering if that it would be better to sell it and make money on it, to put money towards the Shaw Road development. Just saying. I'm asking if the Affordable Housing Society has even thought about that, because I'm guessing, I've heard that it's cost quite a bit of money, and I don't know, it's not from us per se, it's not from the town of Gibsons, but just, affordable is very hard to build. And so I'm just curious whether it's not a better fundraising project. That being said, I'll leave that. It's a question, would they consider selling it? And because one unit isn't, or with it's got a coach house too, isn't enough. And I guess that's my question. I mean, if we're going to get, our $50,000 or $80,000 is going towards the salary, which is fine. It's just that in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of money. I don't know how much money that we have left in Affordable Housing Fund, but it's clearly, I know that the town is working on this, but it's very, very important. I'm asking that the town hurries and gets a proper plan and gets more money from the developer, and we get on with this, because meanwhile, everybody is, waiting for it. So I guess that's about all my comments, and I can't stress enough how disappointed I am, and how I want the town to try and get this moving faster by getting more money from developers.
Well, thank you. And
Okay.
I think you understand the process. I appreciate you've been involved for a long time, and that's great. These things do take time, as we just heard from society. Certainly, I don't have the answers to what the plan for any plan to sell Franklin Road. You'd have to talk to them directly on that and contact them. And the other aspect of the project is in terms of, it would be great if the grants had come through and they were working on it. I know they're extremely disappointed that that a error was made by BC Housing at the time, and Canada Mortgage and Housing in misinterpreting the application. But we've followed through with our MLA, our MP, and he is working to try to encourage Canada Mortgage and Housing to support this going forward. As far as other projects are concerned, it'd be great if someone came forward. I understand the Lions are looking at the possibility of affordable housing. I know that there are other potential projects, but we can't pull people in and tell them they have to do this or have to do that. And we can only work with them once they set a path to work with us, so that we have the strategy and the new housing strategy for the Sunshine Coast. Things are being worked on by staff. Our basic premise at this point in time is that if somebody steps forward and wants us to work with them, certainly we will work with them and try to make that available through zoning, through other policies, through other ways that we can eliminate roadblocks or barriers to development for affordable housing. But we don't ourselves build, and so that we don't have that opportunity. If developers are developing out there and they come forward and their projects meet the requirements of our bylaws, then they will pay into the Affordable Housing Fund like anybody else. At this present time, I'm not aware of any recent developments that are required to pay into that, but you never know what's around the corner. So it's a challenge, and housing on the coast is a challenge. And I've always said, look, I'm prepared to say, if we're all prepared to sell our houses for what we paid for them, there would be affordable housing on the Sunshine Coast. But I don't think any of us want to go back to those original costs that we paid. So that other folks are stuck with following behind us, and the prices and values of our lands, our properties just keep on going up. And that's the challenge. It would be very nice if we could have a magic wand and make things suddenly affordable, but they're not. So, council.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm providing affordable housing in my basement, and I just figured that, that we should, as a town, be able to do what I'm doing. So somehow it's got to be done.
I'm providing affordable housing in my house too for my son and daughter-in-law. So that it's many families are in that state, I can assure you. So,
Okay. All right.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judith, for your comments.
Yeah. Can I go off? Go off.
You can. Thank you.
You can stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Yes, you can stay. Now, you had somebody else, Corporate Officer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you should see them there on your screen.
Yes, Suzanne Sanger, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm just gonna follow up on something that on the issue that Judy was talking about, and then I have a question about the minutes of the meeting from the 19th. And I just wanted to say that the spec tax, the speculation tax, is one of those things that I would love to see local government work with our MLA to pursue for the Sunshine Coast, because I do think that it could help us with the affordable housing problem. So that's just a comment. And then I did have a question about, so the regular council meeting minutes of Tuesday, January 19th, there was a motion of council for the community grant Canada BC Safe Restart funds, that you would set up a community grant fund with a total of $25,000 and a limit of $1,000 per application to that fund. And I remember the conversation and I thought, okay, this is great. You know, you guys are doing a really good thing here. And then I went and I looked at the parameters of that funding and realized that, you know, it's really open. And I guess, so I'm curious what, you know, it wasn't clear to me how the amount of $25,000 and the $1,000 per applicant was settled on, or if that was arbitrary or just sort of like, you know, preliminary. And also I wonder if you'd be willing to up it. I mean, there's $1.5 million that the federal and provincial governments have downloaded to the town of Gibsons, and $25,000 of that seems like a really small amount to be able to grant to charitable, philanthropic, and not-for-profit organizations who are really helping see people through the hard times of COVID.
I appreciate that. I know there's a number of other organizations like the Community Foundation and other groups that are providing funds as well, COVID funds and applications. We started this just to get some money out. I believe the council, we did say that depending upon demand and need, we will look at it in terms of increasing it. Right now, we're the only organization on the Sunshine Coast that's used its restart money for this purpose. And we'll see how the applications go. I know there's needs beyond $1,000. It was looked at to be offsetting. It is to offset the costs that have been incurred or costs that are being incurred relative to Safe Start. And so that we'll certainly look at it when it comes up. There's a letter in our correspondence tonight from the Playhouse Theater, for example, the Heritage Playhouse Theater, and they need more than $1,000. But we also have the other grant of assistance program as well. We've tried to make this an easy rollout, and that it's not tied to kind of an application process where submit your application and we'll consider it and we'll let you know in 6 months. It is a ongoing rolling application form, and it is staff driven. It does not have to come back to council for approval, so that it can go out the door as quickly as it comes in the door once the applications come. So we try to make it simple, and if it needs to be expanded, we'll know from demand. And but be aware that the $500,000 that we received, a percentage of that has already been committed. So that we no longer have that full $1.5 million. We have our own costs, and that's what is offset to the costs that we've incurred and the costs that ongoing costs that we incurred relative to COVID. So there are things that as a municipality we're trying to put back into the municipal funds so that we don't have to increase the taxation to cover the costs that we've incurred, which is another reason why that grant was provided. So we're trying our best. I appreciate that it may not be good enough sometimes, but it is a start. And I hope that all the governments on the coast follow that example.
If I may, Mayor Beamish, I would just like the sort of as a follow-up, the idea that, you know, a lot of the funds from that $1.5 million will have been already allocated for specific purposes. If there was an indication, you know, if the town thought, okay, you know, we want to put 50, we want to put 100,000 in there, then at least it would sort of be earmarked for that and not spent on other things. And so I just want to put a plug in for, you know, community support for, you know, making sure that that money gets into the hands of the, you know, the groups who need it in the community. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Okay, are there other questions? Corporate officer, are we okay to proceed?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Are you not seeing the names on the screen tonight? We do have one more, Mr. Des Delaney.
No, I'm not seeing them. So, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. You can hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you, Mr. Delaney. Go ahead, please.
Okay, just I'm not sure if the people from the Affordable Housing Society are still on and able to respond. You know, a comment I made previously, the Franklin Road project, because it's not a non-profit society, my understanding is therefore, I guess they don't have to make it public what the final costs are and how much it actually costs to put this, you had the 2 suites in the laneway house on the land provided by the town of Gibsons. I think it would be good if there was some transparency to what it actually costs to build those units, what the business model is as far as getting money back on it. I don't know if that's something that is available to be given to the residents of Gibsons, whether it's through council or the society. I mean, that's a question. If the money is just going out, and that's fine, but it would be good to know what the business model is on the Franklin Road project, I think, before any further, I guess, progression. I mean, this is something that everybody should be aware of, is that construction costs are through the roof. So is that playing a part with the Shore Road? I'm not sure how a company like New Commons could make a mistake with offices in Toronto, Victoria, Vancouver. A multi-million-dollar company could make a small mistake to BC Housing. So that's one question.
Let me correct you there. I wasn't aware that New Commons had made a mistake. I was aware that they explained to us that BC Housing misinterpreted their application.
Okay, so
but
thanks for clarifying that. That's great.
You're also asking questions, Des, that are better put to the society itself, not to council. We are not the society.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
This is a board of directors, and we do not speak on their behalf.
Okay, no, that's. I just wanted to confirm that, and I'll follow up with them. And you know, you're aware I've asked about this before.
Please do.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. And then just one more question. The town of Gibsons, Rain City and BC Housing are in partnership on a project on School Road. And it was told that it was $14 million project. And in actual fact, the building permit was for $7 million. There was $322,000 in permit costs and DCCs. There would have been other soft costs with furnishings and consultants fees, etc., which would have put a total of about $8 million for that project, which would appear from the money that BC Housing several years ago said they had $14 million to deal with affordability and the people in the town of Gisbons would leave $6 million left over. Is that something perhaps the town could take up and talk with BC Housing, as you know, because they're in partnership with them on this project, and assist the affordable housing people with perhaps that 6 million? So that's just another question.
Thank you. We would certainly remind BC Housing those costs, but that was their budget. What they actually end up spending would be their spend. So that would be them. But certainly it's an idea that we could let them know that we think there's still $6 million left on the table. Whether or not there would be in reality, I can't speak to either. And we're not partners with them, nor are we partners with Rain City. Rain City is contracted, I understand, to BC Housing. So,
okay, thanks. Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And at this time, Mr. Mayor, I'm not seeing any further hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on our agenda then to committee reports. And first of all, could I have a motion that all the committee reports and correspondence be received? Okay, Councillor Crowell, thank you. Councillor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor of receipt? Thank you very much. Committee reports, the committee of the whole meeting of minutes from January 19th, and this is the one that needs to be amended to eliminate Councillor D'Andrade from the meeting, so that if we amend that, so it'd be if the minutes could be received as amended. Councillor Crowell, Councillor D'Andrade, all in favor of receipt? Thank you very much. We'll go on to council reports. And I have to warn you, I'm going to talk a little bit tonight. So I'll give you a little bit of time, but we'll go on to council reports now. And I'm going to recognize you, Councillor Guinard, to begin.
Hello. Okay, so I have, I guess, exciting news. The youth council that we proposed, Ailish and I proposed last year, or not last year, like last spring, we are having our first meeting tomorrow, and we basically ended up, it was kind of a long process, as I mentioned a few months ago. We were going to start it, we were originally going to start it in September, but then no one was really getting back to us. So then we postponed it, and then eventually just actually getting out everything was kind of like, you know, spreading the word was kind of a challenge. And we sat down with the vice principal at my high school, and we just kind of discussed what the best approach to it was, because she has been like implementing these kind of programs within schools. And we ended up deciding to host a general meeting tomorrow. So because we were worried that if we had this application process, it would scare people from even trying to do it, because they're like, oh, I have to write an application. I'm not gonna get it. It's not worth my time. So we ended up deciding to have a general meeting, and based on tomorrow night's outcome, if there are lots of people, then we will go through a selection process. And if no one seems interested, then it might be something that we need to just put away and to ask someone else later if they want to try and start it up again. And if there are a good amount of people, then of course we'd love to go. And so far we have 8 people signed up for tomorrow night's meeting, which is more than like still enough. Like it's not a ton, but it'll be interesting. And I'm hoping that it's enough to get it started. So yeah, and I'll keep you guys updated with how it goes.
Good.
Yes.
Congratulations on that. And just let council know that I have been invited to attend and participate in this inaugural meeting as well. And maybe I'll write a poem or something.
That would be fantastic. So very excited to have you there.
Okay. But thank you for that, and look forward to participating in that tomorrow night. So thank you. Any questions for Gravity on that? Councillor Ladwig?
Yeah, congratulations, Gravity. That I know it's a lot of work pulling people together for things like that. I was just curious, will students that participate in this council get credit towards their academics at all? Is that something you guys have looked at with the principal?
So as of right now, I think that would be awesome to eventually do that. Not right now, because basically it's mostly just like volunteer hours. And of course it's great if you're looking to even get involved with like this program that I'm doing, or if you're looking to get involved in other things. But right now we aren't doing credit, just because that, first of all, would require us to like connect with like all the schools and like their courses, and because it's a new, not that a new year or anything, it would be kind of difficult. But that's definitely interesting, and I think if it's like if it is successful this year, then I'll put the word out and say this might be something you want to look into, because it definitely has happened before new programs get credit, and I definitely think that's a good way to inspire people to do things. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, if you guys can keep this a secret, there is some interest from a university in giving credit to our students for university credit for being students on council. And I'll keep you up to date on that. I think an MOU might be coming in our direction on that. So, but don't tell anyone. Okay. Next, who would like to go next? Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I just wanted to follow up. At one of our earlier council meetings, we had in our correspondence a letter from the Sunshine Coast Highway Society, and our feeling from our meeting was that it should move forward as a sort of Team Sunshine Coast initiative. So I took the letter to the Transportation Advisory Committee, and it also appeared in the correspondence for the Sunshine Coast Policing and Public Safety Committee that I attended on the 21st of January. So at that meeting, the letter came up. I made a motion that it be passed to the Regional District Board as well. My understanding is that you haven't had a board meeting yet, so it hasn't come up on your agenda. But the general feeling was that, yes, it is something that we should be supporting and, you know, work on it as a joint, as Team Sunshine Coast. Sort of further to that, at the same meeting, lo and behold, was the presentation from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure on highways. So it was the same presentation that we received last fall when they made the presentation to council. And, you know, based on that report, the ministry that was in power at the time that the report was prepared, basically was saying that they're not going to consider a major redevelopment of our highway here on the Sunshine Coast until 2035. There's some review, as you may recall, of some of the intersections that are problematic and some of the stretches where they'd like to put in passing lanes. But as far as a bypass or anything major, it's sort of off the agenda until 2035. However, their Minister Trevina is no longer in the position. There is a new minister, so there's potentially room for you know, a team approach to stirring a little more interest with respect to the highway. So the letter that coming back to us, I would like to make a motion that we support the letter that we received in the correspondence. It was a letter dated January 5th, 2021 from the Sunshine Coast Highway Society, and that we support an effort to improve the highway more to a greater level than is what is being currently considered by the ministry. And the district, it had come to Seashell Council the night before the meetings that I attended, so they also are in support of it. Following that on the 21st, there was the first CAT committee meeting with the new chair. And, you know, again, it's continually sort of reiterated sort of problems that occur on the Sunshine Coast with respect to vulnerable people. And, you know, we have our supportive housing hopefully opening soon here. But, you know, there's an opportunity for the community to sort of help support the Legion, or not the Legion, the Salvation Army has offered the space for the warm-up shelter. From information I've received there, sadly they're only at a capacity of 5, but they've been operating at or near capacity most evenings. So, kudos to the Salvation Army for stepping in and providing that service. Also, we had a meeting on the 28th through the CAT committee, sort of takeaway lessons learned from the committee we have here on the coast. And it was a provincial initiative to look at establishing CAT committees in other communities. And just going back to the policing and public safety committee meeting, as most people are aware, Staff Sergeant Hallam has taken some leave, and we brought up at the policing meeting, is there a need to bring back the neighborhood watch program, or the sort of citizens program that we initiated at the beginning of COVID? And as much as she would like to see it restarted, sadly, the RCMP isn't in a total position to help support it fully. So she's asked the people that have taken over for her to keep a sort of a finger on the pulse with respect to the program that we initiated back in, last year, this time. And that they'd be prepared to work with us if we feel the need is to bring it back in. And that's about it for me for now.
Good. Thank you, Councilor Crowe. Now, did I hear a resolution in your voice there at one point on
There was a resolution that we respond to the Sunshine Coast Highway Society, indicating our support for them to work on behalf of all the communities on the Sunshine Coast and the respective municipalities and the First Nation to bring to the new minister's attention the need for better transportation, safer transportation corridors here on the coast.
Councilor Lumley? I see your hand up.
I don't understand. Do they have a plan? Like, are we voting? Is this a motion to go back to the minister and say we want the bypass before 2035? Like, or we're just going to say we just want a safer highway?
Well, it's what they're offering.
I want more sun. Like, we get too much rain. Is there environmental minister we can speak to? It just seems, sure, like it's almost like, hey, let's, I don't know. It frustrates me in a lot of ways because they've already come to us like every year and say they're not going to do it. But just to say I want a safer highway, it's for me, it's, and no disrespect to the people that I guess work on it, but it just seems like, so general, like it's just kind of goofy, but anyway, that's just my thoughts on it.
I think the feeling, Councillor Lumley, is because there is a new minister in office that, new eyes may see the situation here differently than the previous minister. So I think, keeping, just educating the new minister to what needs to be done here, whether the new minister is going to sit down and read the 300-page report that was done on the highways here, some of the problem spots, I don't know. But I don't think it would hurt just to say we have, 84 kilometers of highway that are problematic, and we would appreciate some attention to, towards them. All we're asking for is a letter to be brought to the minister's attention. So,
Councilor Diendrad?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a clarification. I had the impression that I read somewhere that the letter sent to the Ministry of Transportation did include recent data. And is it true? Are you aware of that? That they didn't include data from, I believe, 2019, and there has been some fatalities.
Yes, that did come up at the meeting at the regional district, that their data, I think it ended at 2018. There was nothing for 2019 and 2020. So yeah, there is, and the RCMP offered to provide the Highways Department with their figures and, the extent at which there was property damage and personal injury.
Now, Councilor Cole's made a resolution. Does somebody choose to second that? Councilor Diendrad, thank you. Any further discussion of the resolution? And corporate officer, do you have and understand the resolution?
Yes, I understand it would be a letter in support of the letter received in the January 25th package from the Highways Group.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, no further discussion. Councilor Guinard?
Yes, I just had one more thing that I wanted to say that's not about the highways thing. I just wanted to remind everyone that it's Black History Month and that it's very important to, of course, educate yourself and support Black-owned businesses and movies and whatnot during this month, but always throughout the year. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for that reminder. And we will vote on Councilor Crowell's resolution. All in favor of that? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. I'd like that recorded. If I didn't see that hand, then I know you're in favor. Okay. All right. And yes, it is Black History Month, and we need to remember that. Certainly. So I appreciate that. Councilor Crowell?
Just reflecting back last year, we were provided that amazing food in the delegation for Black History Month that appeared before council. And
I think with COVID, we're losing out this year. So.
Yes, but I still savor that wonderful meal that we got to take home.
It was delicious, and I still have the Tupperware.
Okay, other councilors' reports? Okay, I'm going to jump in there then, and a couple of things bring to attention. First of all, SCRD budget, round one, all day Monday, all day today, and it will be all day Friday. That you'll find me sitting in the office here going over the 480 odd pages of budget submissions that we received. So that very great detail, very interesting process. The whole board's involved in that along with the senior staff, and it's a well-organized process and better organized this year than I've seen in the past. So I really appreciate that. And we'll see where it all ends up in terms of numbers for us. Today we dealt with some issues around the fire department, and I'm very pleased to see some of the things brought up there, particularly with regards to benefits for volunteer firefighters. And so that long time overdue that volunteer firefighters receive benefits to protect them on the job for those who don't have them. So the process on this will go through round one, and then there'll be some public consultation, and then we'll come back together in March and go through round two before the budget is finalized by the end of March for the regional district. So we're in that process. Draw your attention to one of the things that come forward in that presentation was a presentation of the library, and their annual report is out, and Heather Evans Cullens and Janet Hutchinson, the board chair, made a presentation. And really interesting to see that even though we were in a COVID year, their website visits increased by 17%. Their membership increased by 401 members. The total circulation, the digital circulation increased by 40%, and the physical circulation, as one would expect, to decrease by 26%. Database use increased by 58%. Annual visits were 59,000 in-person visits to the library, even though we're in COVID. So very, very active and important hub in our community. And Councilor Ladwig's liaison, I appreciate, and they appreciate your being there with them. So the annual report is there, and it's available. We had a conference call with Minister Josie Osborne with all of the other Lower Mainland mayors and communities, and is to note a lot of information in every community, big and small, have got different issues. Questions about whether or not the parks are going to be open and available for summer, and needing to have information on that early rather than last minute. Looking at different projects that are being done. She mentioned a upcoming announcement on a Strengthening Communities Fund. And so she said something to watch for, an opportunity for communities called Strengthening Communities Fund. Now, that's a 1 hour call. We had an update on COVID as well during that call. And looking at different projects, I raised highway improvements in conversation, and also raised a issue that we'll see later on the agenda, and that's respect to the funding for rural fire departments. The rural communities are looking at that as an issue, especially around the 4.4% fire insurance tax that's put on fire insurance that is not that goes in general revenue as opposed to coming back to municipalities for being available to increase or improve their capital purchase of equipment. And I mentioned much of which is required to respond to accidents on a highway that is not improving. So those are some of the issues we look at there. So that call happened, and then we also joined with the District of Sechelt and the SCRD on a conference call with several of the builders on the coast. They were raising issues of concern to them. So the CAO and myself participated in that. They were concerned with the process. They would like to see one building process for the entire coast. One building department would be good. Variances and permits, the slowness of getting those through. Some lack of understanding of the legislative requirements as opposed to the local ability to process things, not realizing perhaps that variances have a legislative process that have to go through. They would like direct access to senior staff, more direct access to senior staff as opposed to dealing at the counter with a clerk. Concerned about the STEP code, primarily because it requires energy consultants, and their energy consultants are few and far between. So if anybody wants to take up a new career and become an energy consultant, they will be kept busy. And they look at the need for trying to primarily arguing in support of the building community that has a large contingent of employees on the coast. Probably the largest employer on the coast in general are the contractors. And the same group of employees who are employees, they're also coaches in the sports teams. They're also firefighters. They're also doing an awful lot in the community, and they have to be kept busy, and they have to be kept working. And sometimes they find themselves being slowed down through process, and that's frustrating for them. And so that providing access, and what they were suggesting is that for some projects, they said, we got major projects that they've been lost on the coast simply because of process. And so suggesting that if there's things can be done. So this was the first of a series of meetings to look at, and we'll have further discussions with them. So, but it was primarily issues that were raised to the District of Sechelt and the SCRD, and they invited us to join the conversation with them. So we'll carry on with that. We had a meeting with the Sunshine Coast Conservation Association. Stafford Lumley and myself met with the president and one of the directors, talking about current issues and primarily around the Gospel Rock project, and looking at some of the issues relating to the conservation agreement for that area. And I think there's going to be some follow-up to that meeting that will come forward. Looking at the supportive housing project that has been raised, as far as I know, the most recent timing I'm aware of is still middle to the end of February for that occupancy to be done. Still working on the project. One thing I have, and I put out to council, is that the idea of preparing welcome packages for the 40 residents that are going there, and trying to working on the side of my desk as I'm working on other things to put those together. I have contacted both the MP and the MLA to invite them to write letters of welcome. The library, requested some passes from the Marine Education Society, contacted the Art Gallery. just trying to put things together. And I put a draft letter out for council. And if you're in agreement with that, I appreciate it could be more flowery. It's more bureaucratic because that's the way I am. I write bureaucratic. But if somebody wants to write more flowery, give me some words. I'm not sure what those words are, so that I've got a couple weeks on that. So I'm just trying to put that together and have some packages that we can make sure that all of the residents have that sense of feeling welcome to a community or welcome in their community, because they are primarily going to be residents of Gibsons or have connections to Gibsons. So that we're looking at doing that and invite them to contact the office, but also to get involved in the community and use the resource of the community while they're here. So I have let you know as well that I intend to be taking some time off the week of from the 12th to the 20th. 2020, I didn't take any days off, being generally available to the office every day, so that I it's that time. It just feels right to me to take a few days off. And I'm going to turn the phone responsibility over to our Deputy Mayor, Councilor D'Andrade. And there's one meeting that week, I think, that while I'm away. And I'm not sure. I told Councillor Kroll I'll check on the regional district. I'm just not sure what that agenda is that day. And I'm not going anywhere. I mean, you can't go anywhere. I don't want any criticism for me being off in a desert island someplace. But I will enjoy the Friday with Heather and the Monday with Heather and the 4 days after that working in my yard. So I look forward to that. So, and let's see, I think I've covered the most part of what I've managed to be up to since our last meeting. And so that it has been busy times. And I look forward to this week coming. I've got an interview with Gravity tomorrow night. Welcome that introduction to that program. I think at some point in time in there last week, I made a presentation to the Rotary Club as well one night. Spent an hour with them. Didn't make my list. So, and then I've got the Coast Cable talk coming up on this Thursday. And somebody else wanted to interview me on our COVID grant program. And you know, they say that because even though, as has been expressed, because it'll never be enough, you know, but we have to start somewhere, making funds available to people, so that because I think we are the only ones doing it, it's raised some interest. So if somebody's asked to interview me about that sort of thing, so I will be interviewed about that, and hopefully through that stimulus. And I actually, you know, reported that to the minister, that's one of the things that our council had chosen to do with some of the COVID funds. And so I reported that to all the Lower Mainland mayors to let them know that you can put that money to use in the community and not just to internalize it for the local government. So hopefully others will take that up, but we'll see what we can do. And as I say, if we determine if more is identified as being needed to meet local needs, we'll bring that back to council and we'll see what we can do to meet those needs in that sense. Recognizing that the money that council spends, even within the community context, is meeting community needs as well, sort of thing. So, any questions? Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to correspondence, and we have 9.1 is a recommendation that we have already received the correspondence ending January 19th and January 25th, and arising from those correspondence, is there anything that councilors would like to bring to attention? That's the weekend in the 19th and the weekend in the 25th. Okay, Councilor D'Andrade, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. There was a letter from Mr. Baker regarding meaningful and respectful public engagement in decision making, and also related to a letter from Mr. Beaver. So I just want to talk a little bit about it. Council have made a commitment in 2019 through our strategic planning to increase public engagement. And actually, we even said how we were going to do that. We said that we will inspire and encourage citizens of all ages to engage in the decision-making process. And we also said that we will actively listen to the ideas of all of our stakeholders. We said all, not some. The definition for active listening is actually the ability to focus completely on a speaker, understand their message, comprehend the information, and respond thoughtfully. So I understand that it can be taxing for staff and council to deal with the amount, with the nature of information and feedback from our community, especially when it seems we are being challenged. However, we made a commitment to increase public engagement, and I think council needs to live up to this commitment. So I'm particularly committed to do that, and I will continue to strive to improve our performance and our relationship with our community. And not only that, council, I think we have incredible intellectual capital in our community, and we should value that and take even advantage of that. So I just want to here formally thank Mr. Baker and Mr. Beaver for their letter and constructive criticism, but also their contribution to decision-making. And also thank you, Mayor Beamish, for this opportunity. And welcome back, public feedback. I think we should not feel like intimidated or threatened, but just appreciate people's contribution. So.
Thank you. Any other correspondence to be raised? Councilor Ladwig?
There is a letter from Rita, I'm not going to say her name correctly. Sotomayor? From TRAC regarding active transportation around Gospel Rock and along that highway, or I don't know if it's a highway now, or what we call it. Anyways, they offered to come in and talk to us about different options or ideas they have, and I think it'd be worthwhile taking them up on it. I'd like their feedback on how we can, improve active transportation now that the trail through Gospel Rock is no longer, happening. Then we should listen to them and see what they have to say. So.
I think I had that marked as well as something that recommend we refer to staff and see if we can't arrange through staff some further conversation.
Yeah.
We can make that motion.
Sure. Yeah, I'm making that motion.
Seconded by Councilor D'Andrade. Thank you. Okay. Councilor Crowell.
I certainly agree with Councilor Ledwig on that, and it might be beneficial in that conversation to invite the director from Area E to join us, because they are our neighbors, and there's no sense building a road to the town line and having it offset by 5 blocks because something is happening in the regional district that doesn't align with it. So I'm certainly in support of the motion.
Okay, let's vote on that motion. All in favor of referring this to staff? Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe just a clarification. So are they not coming to do a delegation, or
we'll let them deal with staff on that, and staff can arrange a meeting with them, and yeah.
Okay. I think so eventually staff would bring a report, right?
We might arrange a meeting with us and them. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also had another one.
Councilor Ladwood, go ahead. Yeah.
I just also wanted to emphasize, I know it's already been discussed, but just let it be noted that I did note the letter from the Heritage Playhouse.
Yes.
And I think we all need to just be paying attention to that. But I think those comments have been already made by you, Mayor Beamish. So just want to emphasize that I heard it.
Thank you. Councilor Crowell?
There is on the correspondence from January 19th, a letter from Noni Weiss, Manager of Financial Services, changes in the homeowner grant application process. And it might be, sometimes information comes out from higher levels of government and it causes a lot of people to sort of wonder, oh my God, what's happening? We had a recent thing this week with respect to flu shots. And, it was a phone number, you called the phone number, you listened to a 5-minute message, you were given 3 websites to visit. So I'd like to commend Elizabeth Quayle for putting something up on our town website to cut through all the to separate the wheat from the chaff and make it simple for people to get to the information that's currently available. And being on the website, you don't have to phone 5 times to get updated information. But with respect to the homeowner grant, it might be appropriate if we, put an alert out to people in the community that it is going to be a different process this year for claiming your homeowner grant. In the past, you've done it through the town, and this year, apparently, it's being done through the province. So there is a procedure being outlined, more information to follow, but it might be helpful if we just had a heads up on the town website.
Yeah, good idea. Add that to the website just for information. Yeah. Follow up with staff on that, or CAO perhaps could follow up with staff on that. I don't know if our communications manager's in the audience. She often is, so somehow the message will get to her. Yeah.
We'll follow up, Mr. Mayor, for sure.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'll draw attention to the January 19th as well, the correspondence with Patrick Weiler. There's actually a very good list of some of the grants that have been made available through the federal government on that. I think it's very important that we're just familiar with that and encouraging any organization that requires grants that this is a good place to start looking and information around that. And as I mentioned, the Heritage Theater, I think that I know our CAO has been working with them in respect to some of their costs, because we have to remember that it's our building, and that recognize that even though they may not be open and generate revenue, they still generate expenses. So that we'll look at that in the context of other grants of assistance, as well as the $1,000 grant that's available now. And we'll look at the grants of assistance program as well on that one. So it's important to do that. Councillor Kroll?
In the letter, again, the Heritage Playhouse letter, they mentioned that they had a robbery. I'd sort of be interested to know, and it might come up in one of our police reports the next one. They do have an alarm system in the building, and I'm just wondering, what the response time when that alarm was triggered. I'm assuming it was triggered if it was an after hours.
Yeah.
But I just appreciate a little more information, how the thieves managed to make off with the material that they did.
Yeah, perhaps the CAO could look at that. He and I discussed that, because that did not come up in the police reports. So I'm just not sure what, as I've looked at the police reports for the last 3 years. And
It
Councillor,
was a recent robbery, so
robberies, no, it said break-in. So it's robbery's different again. Councillor,
I just think this requires a more fulsome discussion. I know that the RCMP is asking for advice from us on prioritizing their resources and activities over the next coming years. And I think we need to have a fulsome discussion on this. There's been a number of similar statements I'm hearing from people in town, and I just think this requires a bigger discussion.
Yeah, I think, Council, for your information, if you choose to, if you come into my office, you'll see all of the offenses pinned on a map for the last 3 years. So that there's a binder here that has reference to all of the offenses. Now, that being said, they're not assaults, they're not impaired drivings, they're break-ins, thefts from auto, bicycle thefts of that nature. So you can see what's been happening. They're all color coded by year. So you'll see what offenses are. The interesting thing about it is, and I've talked to some of the businesses about this, is that COVID has reduced crime. The shoplifting, the kinds of offenses that used to occur is much reduced because of the controlled entrances to businesses and the controlled numbers of people going into businesses. So that it's easier to observe people. You know who's coming in and out. You have somebody at the door. And so the 2019 was quite a high crime year for a lot of, say, shoplifting and thefts. Didn't happen in 2020. And so it's interesting to say it hasn't restarted for this year yet. The numbers of break-ins are very minor. Break-ins, the only ones that have really surfaced are break-ins into some of the construction sites, construction, the locked storage units, construction sites, stealing tools. I've talked to people, I've had friends come over here from Vancouver who cannot believe the lax security at construction sites. They said they could never get away with that in Vancouver. So that if people are coming from Vancouver and stealing from us, we know why. It's because of the lack of security at construction sites. And so that in some cases, I think that some of the builders need to take some responsibility in ensuring their sites are secure, as opposed to looking to volunteers in the community to make sure their sites are secure. So we need to look at that as well. And that being said, in terms of overall numbers, they're minor. They pop up when a construction project begins, but the numbers of offenses is quite minor. So, but you're welcome to look at that. The pin maps in my office, the binders there with all the offenses. And if you go on the RCMP website, you will find a link to all of their news reports. They come out every Tuesday, and you can read them or read them to Coast Reporter. So all of the offenses are reported there. So, Councillor or CAO, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just for a second. So typically we respond every year with a letter from council on identifying priorities for the RCMP to prepare the work plan. Typically the town has been consistent with waterfront and sort of around the summertime and sort of some visibility on the water. Lower Gibsons, sort of foot patrols and some high commercial areas, and youth engagement. Primarily, that's been what we've done this year. I realized that I think what they're basically looking for is some indication of an area of focus, whether it's citizens support or neighborhood support or other types of work, visibility, homelessness, so that then it's up to the RCMP detachment to develop a work plan and report on how they're going about that. So we don't necessarily tell them how they should do their job, but as much as saying we want to see some focus on this area or this area. Yeah, so that's typically what we respond and what my understanding of what Poppy has asked us to consider, and I can work with council over the next few weeks just to, and if we need something more specific, we can always follow up with either more information, as Mayor Beamish has been pointing out and gathering himself, or other types of input you might need to do that. Thanks.
I think as I've read through the police reports the last 3 years, I think the crime prevention is significant. You know, the construction site crime prevention, that would be a good thing to focus on with the RCMP. Talking to builders about how to secure their sites better and putting the onus back on them. But the other one is bicycle thefts. One of the most common thefts we have here right now is bicycle thefts. And it's not here and there, it's a weekend. Suddenly you'll be reading the paper and you'll get 5 or 6 bicycle thefts that just happen. And it's not necessarily targeted. It's a lot of thefts of opportunity, thefts off the back of a visitor's bike, the bikes off the back of a car, suddenly they're gone. But there's usually 5 or 6 of them, and then there's nothing for several weeks. And one case, there was a recovery of a bike stolen in Vancouver. And so that, which suggested maybe there's actually a linkage between some kind of bicycles being stolen here and going over there, and bicycles from other places coming over here. You just never know what's happening. So, Councillor Ludwig?
Sorry, I can't help but feel like we're kind of off topic here. Like, are we putting like RCMP priorities on the agenda, or are we, because
Yeah, I think that they were going to be on the agenda, but they will be on perhaps the next agenda.
that would be great.
We did get an email from Poppy, and I had thought I'd forward it to go on the agenda, so we'll make sure it gets there.
Great.
But you're right, we're still in the correspondence and we're moving on. Okay, thank you. So we'll go on to the next letters from the Linda Williams Coast Cultural Alliance grant final report, pages 29 to 36. We received that report. Is there anything that council wishes to highlight out of it? Councilor Ladwig?
I think this is one where she's looking for support to increase her grant from 1,800 to 2,000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think it's money really well spent. I think they bring a lot of tourism to the Sunshine Coast. I think a lot of artists really benefit from this. I think we do as a community really benefit from it. I don't know. I don't know if we can make a decision on that, but I support it.
It goes to our grants of assistance program. That's where it refers to for decision.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I think it's money well spent, and I think they do a great job.
Yeah, they do a great job. Yeah, for sure. Anything else to report or comment on there? Okay, going to bylaws. We have the Town of Gibson's Design Panel Bylaw number 1288. Oh, maybe did it? Hang on a sec. I've jumped onto the wrong. So we're going to go now. Sorry, the correspondence from Heather Stewart, Executive Directors, Transportation and Policy Branch, Taxi Service on Sunshine Coast, pages 37 to 42. I'm going to let the CAO speak to this because he's familiar with this issue.
My finger is too fast, or so this is a response from the transportation branch, the executive director, in response to a letter from Mayor Beamish. The town received the correspondence from a local resident early this summer, and because we don't have a taxi bylaw that regulates that as a provincial regulation. We wanted to gather more information about what types of licenses are issued on the coast, what are the levels of service that are required, and so on. So this is a letter with that type of information in response to that, and I have made the original complaint aware of this response as well. At the moment, the sort of where we've left it, I don't know, from council's perspective, I note that on the letter they're talking about the folks that we wrote to are the ones that oversee the sort of the operators on the ground per se, including taxi companies. And in their view, they don't sort of speak to specifics, but just highlight what's available. There's a reference here to the policy branch of the Ministry of Transportation, and that's the folks that sort of work on the rideshare program and other types of policy changes that have been made recently, trying to attract more types of transportation alternatives. So that's roughly the information that we've got. I don't see anything specific to follow up at the moment, unless council wants us to do anything further with that or investigate anything specific. But it was just that following up on a complaint that we got earlier in the summer.
Also have any questions around that? Okay. Councilor D'Andrade?
It's interesting because one of the things that I feel, especially because of parking issues in downtown, the Lower Gibsons, obviously this kind of transportation is key. So I wonder, I understand this was a great step towards, but if there's anything, well, it's not likely that things will be lifted by summer, we don't know. But if there's any further thing on the radar, because ideally we would have a better idea what our needs are and what we could support, right? Instead of waiting, because I think at least we are hoping at least in 2022, our situation will be better. And I feel that it's a big deficit. And many times I don't go out just because, if I'm gonna sit in a bar and drink. I'm not going to bother because of transportation. So I think it decreased a lot of people going out and enjoying. So if there's, and if we are not on a plan, perhaps I know we are doing some budgeting now, some planning. I think this is a really important thing.
Just one last comment, Samir, for me. In general, what I think the policy change in the last couple of years is trying to provide more options and alternatives for people, for all, particularly folks outside of the main centers. So we're waiting on more service providers to arrive, and I think that, as you saw with the Coast Car Co-op as an example of that type of service, it's an uphill battle. Let's hope that we'll have more folks interested in our market, since we seem to be busier. The other aspect to this is the public transit, which it's a work in progress. It's a costly service and is one that has been increasing over the years, and there's a lot more that we could do there still as well.
Councilor Ludwig?
This is sort of a question for the CAO through you, Mayor Beamish, or maybe all of us, I don't know. But is this like, is the ride, sorry, I'm just opening, is the ride share something that we could almost promote somehow on our coast, as just through the local paper or whatever, as a business opportunity for people to think about, like the ride hailing program? Like maybe people just aren't thinking of this as a business opportunity, and maybe it could use some more conversation. Because I do agree with Councillor DeAndrade that it does limit people's ability to go out and enjoy themselves because they don't want to drink and drive, but rightfully so. So I don't know. Anyways, it's just something I wonder if more promotion would benefit the interest or increase the interest.
I might not be the best person to speak about that. I do note that we've had 2 ventures here on the coast, aside from the car co-op. There was also the ride share folks out of the Roberts Creek, and they operated for a while. I haven't seen their cars around too much, but I'm not aware of any other ones other than some bus services or specific operators for tourism programs and so on. So there's been some, but not sort of seeing a lot of new folks.
But what is that program in the city? I can't think of it right now, but where you like dial them up and it's just private cars.
Uber.
Yeah.
Uber, yeah, like.
That's right. Yeah.
We haven't had Uber interest here. I don't know if you can actually call Uber in Gibsons. I've never tried it, to be honest, but I do know just up until we mostly learn about the situation here through working or engaging with the Coast Car Co-op. They have a bit more of a pulse on what opportunities are there to sustain alternative transportation, and ultimately for the taxis is, like any other business, is having the equipment available for when the service levels show up, and it's always hard to match those 2 things as you accumulate. But that is my understanding of it. But let us know if anything else comes up in the meantime, and I'll also inquire. I promise to share this with our colleagues in CSHOT in our regional district and see if anything comes from there as well.
Good. Thank you. 9.4 is a letter from Mayor Dennis Dugas I referred to earlier for District Port Hardy. This is emergency fire equipment facilities and road rescue provincial funding. It's just requesting that we support a letter that he's drafted, and the letter be forwarded back to them. They're looking to actually just our support for that, and then a signature and our logo to go with that, that they would then put onto a letter that would go to the minister. So, Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I certainly support that. You know, having sat in on the budget preparation for like the local fire department and being aware of, you know, some of the situations that are being faced with, you know, the costs of equipment, you know, so I think it's something that we really do need to support, because, you know, it's if it's not done, you know, we've seen their requests for budgets, and, you know, for it to be, you know, put onto the community, yet the cause of a lot of these accidents is a provincial thing. So I think it is rather important that this money do come back to the communities for the equipment they need to deal with a hazardous highway, particularly that area.
Make a motion to support the letter and right, or Councillor Ludwig? We're looking.
I would also like to make a motion that we ask the SCRD to sign it too. I think
They're not a small rural community. This is the group that's doing this is under the head of the small rural, which is under 5,000 population. So that's Mayor Dugas and the small rural community group on Representative Vancouver Island are initiating this.
And the SCRD is a regional district, so it's not a, all right.
Not a small, yeah, it's a different group, yeah. So, but yeah, so. Councillor Kroll?
I believe the Roberts Creek Fire Department would qualify.
I don't think they do. They're not. They don't have a mayor, and they don't have. They're part of this Sunshine Coast Regional District, not a small rural community.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not an exclusive group. It just happens to be where it's structured, and then next year we won't be part of it either, probably. So that So Councillor Kroll moved it. Somebody seconded it. Support the letter. Councillor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor of supporting and providing? Thank you. Okay, now we're going to bylaws. Bylaw 10.1, Town of Gibsons Advisory Design Panel Bylaw. Recommendation that bylaw 1288/2021 be adopted.
You missed 9.5A.
I don't have that on my agenda. I have 9.4, which is Mary Dugan. Tell me what I'm missing. Yeah.
Susan Yurkovich, President and CEO, Forest Council of Forest Industries.
Right, yes, I forward that on. Just was an invitation for somebody to take up a free registration for Kofi this year. I won't be able to do it, but if somebody else is interested in it. Councillor Kroll?
I don't mind doing it and reporting back to council.
Okay, good. Yeah. Quite over, it was just hours spent. Okay, so yeah, good. Thank you, Councillor Kroll, for doing that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry that there must be another agenda package out there that I don't have. So okay. So then we'll go down to the 10.1, which is the Town of Gibson's Advisory Design Panel Bylaw 1288. Motion to adopt. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor of adoption? Thank you. That's finally adopted, so that we'll now see a new format. I think the first process in that will be going out to advertise for membership in that, so that we'll keep on going. 10.2 is a short-term capital borrowing bylaw, and this is recommendation that the short-term capital borrowing bylaw for the district energy system decommission be received, and that be given first, second, and third reading to the bylaw. Councillor Ladwig moved that. Councillor Lumley seconded it. Further discussion, council? All in favor? Okay, thank you. That's passed as well. Unfinished business. We were keeping this on the agenda, the ABICC resolution calls. Are there any other resolutions that council would like to raise to have our staff draft resolutions around? I think at our next meeting, we should see the resolutions. Councillor Ladwig?
I just wanted to make sure my highways one got captured. I assume it did, but I don't know what we've got so far.
Yeah. Corporate Officer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They'll be coming to the next meeting, which is February 16th, and council can take a look at them. The only one we have so far is the highways one, so just as a note.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Ladwig?
I do wonder about the now I'm drawing a blank, sorry, long night. The speculation tax was brought up earlier, and it's one that has often come up, and I do wonder if if that's something we need to be talking about as a region.
I would certainly want to know more information about it myself and talk about it with the community in a broader sense. It's interesting that it hasn't come up in the context of a strategy in our housing strategy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and maybe that's something we should refer at some point to the planner to take a look at to see what potential impact that could have on housing. But, yeah. Do you want to
Make a motion.
make a motion?
More work. But I think it is significant. I mean, we're targeted for that.
Yeah. Might stop some of the short-term rental purchases, yeah.
So I'd make a motion that we explore that staff include an examination of the impacts of the lack of the speculation tax on our community's real estate market and affordable housing.
Okay.
I don't know if I said that very well, but
That's it. You got some wording, corporate officer?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, this is just for clarification. Are you asking for a staff report back to council, or did you want staff to look at a motion for AVICC and UBCM?
I would suspect that at this point in time, it would be an awful lot for staff to research in order to get something forward to ABICC. But I think council is looking for information on how the speculation tax would impact our community if it was implemented here, and what that process would be. Would you rather have that as a notice of motion?
Yes, if it's not an AVICC resolution, that it's not included on this agenda. So if you'd like to, we can include it on next meeting's agenda under new business, which would be February 16th.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. That to get it going, it's certainly something that's going to require some consideration, as say some consultation with the community on as well, as to whether the community wants us to go in that direction in a general way. So, yeah. And everybody's satisfied with that? We at least get it on the agenda for start discussing it. Councilor Ladwig, would that be sufficient for you? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And nothing further for ABICC. You still got some time to think about it. Just refer your thoughts to the corporate officer, but we do have to cut that off so that the resolutions can actually be developed and then forward to you ABICC by the end of the month. Okay. And we've only got one more council meeting to do that with. So okay, the other one is I put on there a couple or 3 weeks ago, and this is the anticoagulant. It came as a result of the correspondence received from Todd Clark, raising the issues of the impact of anticoagulants, rat killer on the owls. He lives rurally, and he has noted that. And we did refer to the City of Vancouver, North Vancouver letter, and it's in your package here now, dated January 11th. And this is a letter sent by Mayor Linda Buchanan to George Heyman, Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, regarding the issue of anticoagulant rodenticides usage. They have actually passed a resolution that bans that on municipal property, because they don't have the jurisdiction to ban it generally in the municipality, but they can ban its use by municipal staff on municipal property. So that's what they've done. And then they've asked that the mayor to write on behalf of council to the province of BC requesting the province ban anticoagulant rodenticides, and that a letter be shared with all other local governments. And so that's what they've done. And we actually saw this earlier on the Howe Sound Forum, and they've just taken one more step further. I would support the concept of banning the use of these anticoagulant rodenticides on municipal properties. I don't know if we do use them, and perhaps it's something that again, we could ask staff to report back on to see whether we are actually using these products. And if we are using those products, then we could consider whether or not we want to put a ban on them. The broader sense is, do we want to write to the minister asking that they be banned generally for use in British Columbia? What's your wish on that, Council? Councilor D'Andrade?
I think we can put a ban whether we use it or not, right? Because if we use, we'll put a ban, and if we haven't used, we still will put a ban. So I think we can even skip. What I would like to do is once we enact the bylaw, that we also put to the public asking, do a quick education campaign, right? Just to and perhaps actually to the stores, right? If they could avoid purchasing. And I think that's perhaps it could go along with this resolution too. Because if the vendors don't buy, then we don't have here. We cannot we cannot force them because it's not regulated by municipality, but.
Yeah. CAO, do you happen to know if there's a product that our staff use?
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that we use those products. We would typically even the contracting. We've had folks at our town hall building was a few years ago. So we ourselves don't use it, but we certainly in some of our buildings we have used pest control services that likely relied on these types of products as well. So that's something to be mindful as well.
So I'm looking for a resolution, Council. Does anyone want to make a resolution, or is it want to refer to staff for further information? Councilor Lumley?
Well, maybe they could bring it back with, like, we don't even know that we use it. It seems kind of silly to make a resolution and the town isn't even using it. It almost, I don't know, it doesn't sound intelligent to me, but it would be interesting to see if people do use it. I mean, when I lived on Martin Road, we had a rat burrow its way into our kitchen, and I called the pest detective, and they didn't use a coagulant for the rat control issue that we had in our home. So I don't even, it'd be interesting to find out how often it's used and how readily it's used, like on the coast, so anyway, I think that'd be maybe the first step,
I saw Councilor Crowell, then Councilor Ladwig.
Go ahead to Councilor Ladwig.
Councilor Ladwig?
I kind of agree with Councilor Lumley. I mean, I agree with Councilor D'Andrade that like just ban it, like we don't need it. But it's work for staff, and if no one's using it, then no one's using it, and so why make staff write a bylaw? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it is a worthwhile thing to kind of ask around about in the first place, rather than asking staff to draft a bylaw that might not be necessary.
Councilor Lumley?
Oh, and from a lot of the research I did on it was that, like, in Europe, it's a controlled substance there. Like, so they've taken a different approach rather than just banning it. Like, the general public can't buy it. And you have to be specifically trained in its use. Anyway, it's like a controlled substance there. So I don't know, like maybe in some instances it's like necessary to be used. You know what? I didn't do a deep dive on it. I mean, there's a wormhole there for sure, but from the studies that I read, they just took a little bit different approach. By all means, I'm not saying that we should have anything dangerous being used, but it would just be interesting to know, like, what our options are to be safe. And who's potentially using it and if something like that's appropriate as well, right? So.
What I've seen in one of the stores on the coast here is that it's actually in a lock cabinet as opposed to on open shelving stock, so that you actually have to get somebody get the key to open it, the cabinet, and take the material out to use that particular material. But it wouldn't be a bylaw, by the way. It'd likely be a policy. By policy, we do not use it, as opposed to a bylaw and telling ourselves not to do something. And bylaw would be broader application to the community if we were doing that. So let's ask staff to bring back comments on it and see if they feel that CAO feels it's necessary for us to do anything with it. CAO?
The suggestion that we're going to have quarterly reports in the next couple of weeks, and then Tyler and Daniel will be here, and then they can just provide you an update on what our current use of those types of products, if any, it is. Then we can go from there. I do note that the resolution here is in support of asking the province for a provincial ban. So I don't know if council wants to consider something like that as well.
I would certainly take that broader approach and support the City of North Vancouver's request to the province. And then we don't have to do a local application at all. We would simply do that. And because we don't have jurisdiction to tell somebody not to use it on private property. And so that the doing it in terms of saying that we share the concerns of the District of North Vancouver, which has been raised to us by a resident, and that we write on behalf of Mayor and Council requesting the provincial ban be put in place. That to me, I think is probably a broader way to do it. Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor DeAndre. I mean, if we should probably not use it as I'd be interested to know if we do and what applications we use it for, but just the mere fact that like a lot of municipal property is used by the public, and a lot of like some of the research that some of the articles I saw, like the biggest effect it has on humans are like 5 and under, because those kids are in the grass or wherever it's being transmitted through. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with the municipal with us taking it, saying we're just not going to use it. But I wouldn't mind finding out maybe during the staff report if we do, where it's used, how much we use. That could be interesting to know at least.
Councillor Kroll?
I'd certainly be willing to support the North Vancouver letter, and if it ends up being banned provincially, then it solves all our problems. Rodents that have eaten poison in the regional district and come running across the town line and cause problems here. How do you police it if it's not dealt with at a provincial level? So, if we can do a broad sweep and get it dealt with provincially, I would be in favor of that. And in the meantime, if we just get some information back from staff, do we use it and what reasons would we use it for?
Okay. I'm just mindful of time right now. If we're not going to resolve it, Councillor Ladwig, DeAndrade, what's your thoughts? Yeah.
Oh, I just want to remind that the reason that the House Sound Forum brought this to the table is because there's impact on marine life, ultimately, and obviously on wildlife as well. But that's one of the reasons too. So, and the SCRD is part of the House Sound, so perhaps they could do something in their properties too. And in the meantime, obviously, we should write the letter. I support both actions.
Okay. So, Councillor Kroll, your resolution is to support the letter from City of North Vancouver to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change, requesting a ban on anticoagulants and to request staff to report on the use of those products on municipal property. Okay, seconded by Councillor Ladwig. All in favor of the resolution? Thank you. Okay, we got that through. Thank you. Okay, back to the agenda. There's no new business. We'll go back now to inquiries and invite anybody to come forward. I'm going to remind council we still have an in-camera meeting, and Councillor Kroll, I got your hand up.
I just wanted to make a motion that we extend to 9:15.
Anybody want to second that motion? Councillor Lumley, all in favor of the motion? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're extended 9:15, so now inquiries. Corporate Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'll ask anybody in the meeting as an attendee to please use the raise the hand feature found at the bottom of the screen, and we'll turn on your audio and video so you can ask a question of council. And I'm not seeing any, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, then we will have a motion to close the meeting in accordance with the sections A, C, G, I of the Community Charter. And I'm not going to read all those out, but personal information, labor relations, litigation, or receipt of advice, subject to solicitor-client privilege. Motion, please. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ludwig, all in favor of adjourning, closing. That's what we're doing. We're closing. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and with that, I'll say thank you to the public and thank you, Gravity, for being with us tonight. And I look forward to, you're going to send me a link for tomorrow night? Have you sent it already?
I will send it to you tomorrow
Okay.
afternoon, and you'll have it well before the meeting. Don't.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay.
Right.
Good.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. And council, I guess, are we going to go from here and come back in another link? So see you in a minute.